Brought to you by Penguin.
The Last Day by Andrew Hunter Murray. Read by Gemma Whelan. I looked up into the air, and I saw that it was greatly disturbed. I looked up to the vault of the sky, and I saw it standing still, and the birds of the sky were at rest. I looked back to the earth, and saw a bowl laid out for some workers who were reclining to eat. Their hands were in the bowl, but those who were chewing were not chewing, and those who were taking something from the bowl were not lifting it up, and those who were bringing their hands to their mouths were not bringing them to their mouths. Everyone was looking up, and I saw a flock of sheep being herded, but they were standing still, and the shepherd raised his hand to strike them, but his hand remained in the air. I looked down at the torrential stream, and I saw some goats whose mouths were over the water, but they were not drinking. Then, suddenly, everything returned to its normal course. The Book of James. Prologue. June. 2:30 a.m., and no signal yet. The American was waiting in his cramped little room, waiting for a pulse that would tell him London was calling. The whole building was boiling hot tonight. The air conditioners had broken down again, and here he was, the last one left at his station, fiddling with transmitters just to pass the time before the call came through. He would have to sleep in the office. No chance of getting home before he'd have to turn around and come back. He sipped his coffee, now only as warm as the air around him, and reread the briefing document he'd received earlier today, the one that gave him and his department 2 months' notice. Eventually, 15 minutes later, it came, the trademark rhythm of pulses that told him who was on the line. "Are you there?" The voice was British, hurried and coughing. "Thank Christ, you're 2 hours late. I'm sorry, I thought I was being watched. I had to wait, but I've got news, good news. There's something big on its way." "What kind of something?" "Supposedly some evidence that could change the whole balance of power. That's what my contact says, and he should know." The American sighed. He'd heard stories like this a dozen times before. They were never true. The contact always fell through at the last minute, or the secret documents turned out to be the junk from someone's bottom drawer, a mishmash of garbled data that gave nothing away. A top-level contact was generally some middle-ranking officer in the grip of a midlife crisis, wondering what life was like on the other side. But he was professional, so he asked the questions he should. "Any details? Where's this information from?" "Someone I used to know very well. He's qualified, though, more than qualified. He's got something for us, and he's finally ready to hand it over." "And has he said what he wants from us in return?" "He doesn't want anything. He says he's got nothing left to gain or lose. He says he wants to make amends, his words." The American thought of his family for a second, of the hot little house they shared with 2 other families, too crowded, and of the suffering land stretching for miles around him, the wilting crops. His children were thinner this year than they had been last year. They were lucky even to be here, when so many others were not. It felt irrational and ungracious to expect that things would ever be better. But calls like this one made it so much harder not to feel hope. "What's your opinion?" he said. The voice at the other end of the line was earnest. "I think he's telling the truth." He looked at the briefing document on his desk, the one telling him he and his colleagues had just 60 days until the world changed forever, and in spite of the heat, he shivered. "I hope you're right," he said. "We don't have much time."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?